From the desert of Bahrain to the heat of Kuala Lumpur, the new Formula One season moves on and moves up. It scaled the heights with the action of the opening weekend, and now there's huge anticipation for what's to come in round two, the Malaysian Grand Prix.
It's hot here at the Sepang circuit, very hot. It's currently 39 degrees and it's only going to get hotter. That's going to be tough on the drivers and it's going to be particularly tough on their engines. These brand new V8s have already completed one race weekend in Bahrain. Now, for the very first time, they have to go through it all over again. This circuit would be punishing even without the heat and humidity because of the long straights. The V8 is less powerful than the V10, and because of that, the drivers now spend more time with their foot flat down. Around 72% of the lap is driven at full power. That's the third highest figure of all the tracks we race on. There were always going to be casualties, as Ralf Schumacher found out to his cost.
Well, obviously there's a few people that are struggling. The V8s, obviously I haven't got the same mileages on them that we had the experience of V10s. RPMs are higher, so that puts more stress, I guess, on the pistons, so that's what's been failing.
How uncharted is this territory, the running the V8s for the second time?
It is, absolutely. You know, I think Honda probably did the most amount of running and went to testing to evaluate 2 race cycles, but it's never the same.
Yes, the demands of the fast-flowing Sepang circuit, 30 kilometres from Kuala Lumpur, and its reputation as the hottest race on the Grand Prix calendar made engines and engine wear the #1 topic as the teams qualified ahead of this Malaysian Grand Prix. Whether to risk engines that had already raced a Grand Prix in Bahrain or whether to change and take a penalty in terms of grid position, that was the dilemma facing the teams. When all the issues and complications had been resolved, one thing was clear. Britain's Jenson Button would start on the front row of the grid alongside pole position man Giancarlo Fisichella. And this is how the grid lined up for the Malaysian Grand Prix.
We've had no less than 7 engine changes this weekend on 6 different cars. This is how they line up. Fisichella, 3rd career pole alongside Button. Row 2, the 2 Williams drivers. They'll be exciting in the race. Moving through to row 3, and it's the McLarens. They didn't go for pole. They're carrying a lot of fuel into this Grand Prix. Through to row 4, Alonso badly compromised by a refuelling mistake, and Klein again outstanding in the Red Bull. Row 5, Jarno Trulli in the Toyota and Jacques Villeneuve in the BMW Sauber. Row 6, Villeneuve's teammate Heidfeld and Scott Speed in the V10-powered Toro Rosso. Michael Schumacher qualified in 4th place, but with an engine penalty, he moves back 10 spots to 14th. The 2 Midlands are on row 8, Albers out-qualifying Montero. Row 9, the 2 Super Aguris, Takuma Sato and Yuji Ide. And then the men who had to change their engines because they had problems, they moved 10 places back on the grid. David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. Felipe Massa changed his engine twice, and Ralf Schumacher is at the very back because he changed his engine after the qualifying session.
But it's not all about engines here in Malaysia. For the 8th Grand Prix at the Sepang racetrack, it's 5.5 kilometres, 3.44 miles, 15 corners and 56 race laps. Now if they get through turn 2 at the start of the race, the key corner is turn 15, the final one. Approached now by pole sitter Fisichella. It's very bumpy, like a washboard in the braking zone. Difficult to get the front of the car to the apex, just 70 miles an hour at the slowest point. And then you have to get on the throttle very early. Fisichella's on the front row, Mark Webber just behind him on the grid, and at last year's Grand Prix they tangled in this, one of the key overtaking areas.
"56 racing laps to come. When the 5 lights go out, we'll be racing here in Sepang. And they're away. Fisichella on the right, Button on the left. Who's got the drop? It's Fisichella. Rosberg comes across to cover Webber. He's pushing him towards the pit wall. Webber's not lifting his foot though. Who's going to get the inside line between the two Williams? Is it Rosberg? Right round the outside goes Alonso. What a beautiful start by the world champion. And as Rosberg and Webber were practicing that strategy they told Martin about, Alonso caught them napping. He's up to third. Fantastic.
Alonso just caught them watching each other. What a stunning start from him. And if he's big on fuel, which we know he is, he's in an incredibly good position. The McLarens are fighting off and having to really protect their position. A Ferrari on the grass at the top, which must have been Michael Schumacher. And McLaren is off. Kimi's in the wall. He's touched somebody already, I suspect. I don't think he could have lost the car there. I imagine that's contact. Kimi Raikkonen out of the Grand Prix, and the engine was still running. Can he coax it out of the gravel trap? Gravel traps here are very, very hard, but he looked like he put the rear wing into the barrier as well. So Raikkonen in trouble.
Did he hit something? Is he able to get the clutch going again? The smart money in the paddock was on Kimi Raikkonen to win this Grand Prix. The favourite is out. At the front, Fisichella leads. Button is second, Alonso third. Fourth is Webber. He did get in front of his teammate. Raikkonen is out. Rosberg is in fifth place. Then it's Montoya, Klein, Heidfeld, Trulli and Villeneuve. Raikkonen had got himself up to fifth place before he went out. So who did he hit? Was it one of the Williams?
Rosberg got off the start very well, but he just never seemed to really gather enough speed. He looked like he was going to threaten. There's a Toyota there of Ralf Schumacher trying to get up the inside of one of the Toro Rossos, but I'd be interested to see the start again. Rosberg looked like he got away well and was going to threaten Jenson Button, and all of a sudden he was under attack, almost as if he hit the rev limiter in one of the upshifts. And there then is Ralf Schumacher and Massa having a look too. So let's have a look. They're back 13th and 14th. They're in the middle there. Scott Speed is the Toro Rosso driver. Coulthard up from 19th to 11th already. 10th is Michael Schumacher from 14th.
Well, they're showing Raikkonen as having stopped out on the track. It's a bittersweet circuit for the Finnish driver. He got his first Grand Prix victory back in 2003 here, but on all his other visits, he has yet to finish a race. And once again here this year, it's bitten him. There you can see the Ferrari. That's Massa attacking Scott Speed. This is the battle for 14th place. And that's Klein. Oh no, Christian Klein, 7th on the grid after a fantastic qualifying performance. Again, punching above the Red Bull's weight. He's hit someone as well. What a frantic first lap.
I suspect it's Kimi Raikkonen, because Raikkonen could not have made an error where I believe he went off. Ted may have some news for us at Red Bull.
Well, I think he must have, because he's absolutely ripped the suspension of the right front to make that the left front. They're refueling the car, but no, this is terminal. They take off that front tyre. Well, Darren Nichols, the chief mechanic, is having a look. No, it's out. He must have hit Raikkonen because that is terminal damage for Klein, which is a shame.
See, this is the problem with taking the optimum strategy in this new qualifying system. So, okay, right, we'll give up front row of the grid or first two rows. We want the right amount of fuel in for the Grand Prix. And then you put yourself back in the danger zone of collecting other runners in the first lap, and that's what's happened to Kimi Raikkonen. He's probably got the perfect car underneath him, the perfect amount of fuel as Massa takes Scott Speed, but it's left him exposed, and he's paid a very, very heavy price.
Everyone's feeling their way with the new qualifying format. You can go for grid position, or you can carry a bit more fuel into the race, and as you say, there's a danger in being in the midfield pack. Kimi Raikkonen will certainly re-evaluate. It was interesting yesterday afternoon, Montoya said that when he was at Williams, they tended to think about grid position. McLaren think about the race. Look at the two McLarens on the right then. Look at Alonso making his progress down the left-hand side, right behind the two Williams now as they go down the pit wall.
Yeah, Alonso's coming from a long way back. He's playing a video game at the moment. He's like, okay, you watch each other. I'm coming right round the outside. He was so lucky that the Williams didn't get together, because they would have scooped him up as well. And relatively well behaved there. And this is Alonso with that mega Renault start. And there he is behind the two Williams. The two Williams are now going to the inside, and he can recognise straight away that's a potential zone, danger zone. He's on the grippy part, the normal racing line, just giving himself enough space around the outside, tucks in nicely behind Button, and Button did get away better. And look, that's Raikkonen. I think his right rear. I think his right rear was slightly out of kilter. Here we go. No, that's a replay of the start. Oh yeah, he got tagged on the right rear, I imagine by Klein, and now it's going to spin him straight off. So yeah, right rear suspension failed, but because he was collected by another car on the apex of turn 4, almost certainly Klein.
Yeah, looking at the replay of the start as they went down towards turn 1, you could see Christian Klein's Red Bull coming down the left-hand side. 2 McLarens are over on the right, but they were definitely on the same piece of tarmac. So several corners later, that looks like what happened. We haven't seen it with our own eyes, but it looks like Christian Klein tagged Kimi Räikkönen, and he is out of this Grand Prix. This is lap 4. Fisichella leading Jenson Button by 1.5 seconds. Alonso is third for Renault. Fourth, Mark Webber, but attacking the Renault of Alonso. Fifth is Montoya. Sixth, Heidfeld. Seventh is Rosberg. And eighth, Jarno Trulli in the Toyota. This is lap 6 of the Malaysian Grand Prix from Sepang, about 19 miles outside Kuala Lumpur, just very close to the equator, and it is very hot here. 36 degrees the track temperature, 33 the air temperature. We are looking at the front wing of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. You can't really see the bit that's causing the problems, but this car is under threat of a protest. Ferrari have been the centre of attention this weekend. So far, Giancarlo Fisichella leading the Grand Prix. There you can see Alonso 4 places up off the start line. Rosberg down 3, Heidfeld up 4, and Coulthard, the real hero, off the start line, up 8 places.
This is the bit they're complaining about, actually, James. It's just on the side of the nose of the front, where the front wing is coming out of the nose and then twisting. And my understanding is that's exactly what the other teams are complaining about. Ralf Schumacher up 10 places.
Well, the pace has not been all that hot so far in this Grand Prix compared to the lap times we saw during the free practice sessions, the long runs that the team do on Friday afternoon and Saturday morning in particular. But now Giancarlo Fisichella is starting to pick up the speed a little bit. He just did a 1:35.8, some 0.6 of a second faster than Jenson Button, who is now 3.5 seconds behind him. We're riding on board with Mark Webber.
This is Webber really being held up at this stage of the Grand Prix by a Renault that could well win this race, but is very heavy on fuel due to a calibration problem on the fuel rig, is my understanding. And meanwhile, Fisichella on a different strategy, 3.4 seconds ahead of Button now. Button really needs to be closer than that. Alonso 9 seconds adrift in third, with Webber just behind him. Montoya also heavy on fuel, holding station. Little Rosberg then, P6, beginning to catch Montoya now as well. And further, oh, that's a big smoky blow up from BMW, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh no.
No, it's the Williams of Rosberg. The Williams of Rosberg.
The Cosworth engine, if that is indeed Rosberg, it's hard to tell from that tall angle.
And there's a view of it from Nick Heidfeld's BMW. And once again, it's an oil fire, and quickly it uses up its oil and the flames go out. And there it goes. It's the right bank of the V8 by the looks of it, and kaboom. Well, he will get it's the second race anyway, so he can put a fresh engine in. He won't finish the race, so there'll be no penalties.
There you can see the midfield action behind Jarno Trulli, Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher, Felipe Massa and Scott Speed all together. Those cars separated by not too much distance. David Coulthard there coming into the pits.
Problem for Coulthard, he lost 2 places on that lap. That's a sick motor. I think it could well be a sick motor, I don't know. And finally, Michael Schumacher, 2 former world champions squabbling over the same piece of tarmac in turn 1. And it's Michael Schumacher now through to 8th place.
Lap 11 of the Malaysian Grand Prix, and it looks like another Ferrari-powered car is in trouble. David Coulthard.
In 6th gear, stuck in 6th gear.
Stuck in 6th gear, the problem, not an engine problem then. They have had their fair share of engine problems. Felipe Massa in the works car has changed engines 3 times. And here's Michael Schumacher getting past Jacques Villeneuve. This is the battle for 8th place, the final points position. Schumacher coming through from 14th on the grid.
Yep, 2 former world champions. You can see Michael's controversial front wing flapping around in the turbulence of the BMW of Jacques Villeneuve, and sends one up the inside. Villeneuve with a no-hoper of a half an effort around the outside, because Michael very much had track position there. He moves up to 8th place. Coulthard in the pits then, so both Red Bulls with problems. Klein has rejoined, although Klein has pitted again as well, so maybe they didn't fix all of his front suspension problems. Coulthard pits, Rosberg blown up, Raikkonen has a problem on the first lap, contact with Klein. There are both the Red Bulls, and Klein saying it just doesn't feel right, and I can understand, especially at the front end. If the front end's not tracking properly, then you've got yourself a fairly major problem around high-speed circuits like this, or anywhere for that matter in a Formula One car. So disaster then at Red Bull.
Well, they've shown a turn of speed, that's for sure. Klein qualifying 7th on the grid here, also quick in Bahrain, but reliability a bit of an issue at the moment for Red Bull Racing. Nico Rosberg we saw having a spectacular engine blow up a few laps ago. He's out of the Grand Prix, he's with our Louise.
Nico, the last race was a fairy tale. This one's turned into a bit of a nightmare.
Well, it started off as a bit of a fairy tale, so, you know, I can't change the engine blow up. If it is one, I would expect, because of the smoke and everything, but I can't change that. So what I can do is maybe improve my first lap performance, because I had a bad start, had too much wheel spin, and then should have maybe been a bit more aggressive, but I'll improve that in the future, and now I'm looking forward to Melbourne.
Engine reliability was always potentially going to be an issue here, but the Cosworth we've seen has been so reliable so far.
Yeah, but everybody's had problems, and even with this blow-up, I think we're still one of the most reliable, so, you know, it's all right, I think, for the first 2 races, and I'm sure they're going to be able to improve for the next couple of races.
Is this potentially going to be a problem for your teammate Mark Webber?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, they had everything sorted out, so it shouldn't be, no.
Thanks, Nico.
Michael Schumacher having a look up the inside of Jarno Trulli. This is the battle for 7th place here. Schumacher, of course, on a fresh engine, having changed yesterday morning before the qualifying session. So whereas some of these cars, like Jarno Trulli, having to be a bit careful to make the engine last the second race, Schumacher has more of a fresh donkey in the back, and he pushes his way, forces his way through. Trulli tries half-heartedly to fight back, but Schui's through.
Well, he should have seen that one coming a long way back, Jarno Trulli. That was candy from a baby. But isn't that Ferrari picking up an amazing amount of slipstream effect? We haven't seen that for a long time to that extent. Schumacher is not wind affected like it was in Bahrain. That is a pure slipstream effect. The Ferrari working very well in those conditions, and then Trulli with a really half-hearted sort of attempt to sort of defend him, but he needed to cover him much earlier than that.
Into the pits comes Mark Webber. I wonder if this is a slight switch of strategy. He's been held up behind Alonso. This is lap 15. It's more or less when we expected him to come in, perhaps not quite this early, but here he is anyway. Change of tyres, of course, allowed under the 2006 rules. We didn't have them last year, but you are allowed to change tyres again this year. That's made the tyres a lot softer this year, which is one of the reasons why the lap times are still so competitive, even though the engines are 200 horsepower less.
It's just 100 kilometers per hour they're allowed to do down the pit lane, 62 miles an hour. And it looks nothing for you as a driver, because you've just been going, so, you know, 3 or 4 times that speed, 3.5 times that speed. But it doesn't have to look fast, and the mechanics, they must watch this thing coming. It's like standing on a dual carriageway and just watching something coming towards you at 60 miles an hour. Astonishing energy as you go into a garage full of your own men. Ted is down at Red Bull, where all the action is.
Yeah, David Coulthard has had to retire. Problem with the rear end. He wanted to suggest to the team that they turn this into a test session. He's telling them to have a look at the back end. He's still not quite sure. He's about to come out the garage soon. He's still not quite sure exactly what went wrong. But Christian Klein, meantime, was saying he felt the left rear this time feel loose. But he came in, they checked it over, they've sent him back out again.
Thanks for that, Ted. We were just watching, thought it was, no, it's the Midland, but it was a very, very long shot of Montoya running wide onto the grass. It's the Midland of Montero. He's down in 17th and penultimate runner at the moment. Ide is last at 18th. Coulthard, although he may rejoin, Rosberg, Klein and Raikkonen out of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, Montero there coming through, and you can see that that car running reasonably well towards the back of the midfield, having just a little bit of an excursion on the outside. I spoke with Johnny Herbert, sporting director of Midland Formula One, and he said they've got quite a lot of updates coming for this car. It is a big step forward on last year's car. New front suspension coming for Europe, and here comes Villeneuve lining up Jarno Trulli. We saw Michael Schumacher go through at the same corner a couple of laps ago. Trulli this time, though, goes more defensive on the inside, but he has to get off the throttle, and Villeneuve takes the place. So Villeneuve really enjoying this car, really attacking. And his teammate Heidfeld is up in 5th place. BMW Sauber are on the map here.
Yeah, I think Jack's driving really well this year. Massa will be the next one to just go and take a place from Jarno Trulli. I mean, Michael's just nailed him into there too easily, and now he's allowed Villeneuve to do the same thing. You've just got to go and cut off the inside line and then force them wide and then hang them out to dry. Just give them a little nudge or something. Look, and Trulli made a kind of a bit of a dart, but he just left all that space available. It's like big green arrow, pass me this side.
Bit of smoke is now out the back of the Williams of Mark Webber. Another Cosworth about to let go.
Yeah, it's looking a bit fiery and smoky down there, isn't it? Mark Webber
dear.
Quite sensibly getting himself off the racing line. He's not very far away. At least it's the exit of a corner. I don't know if he's in the firing line of a braking zone. He shouldn't be where he looks like he went off, but Fisichella still pumping in the fast laps as Mark Webber gets out of the car. This will be a bitter disappointment for Williams.
You can see bits and pieces of sparks coming out of the back of that car before Webber decided a little flash of light underneath. Something's let go underneath. Smoke coming out of the rear diffuser. So, Renault are ready. Fisichella would probably be the most likely bet for coming in first, seeing as the lap times he's doing very, very quick at the moment. Here he is, your race leader, on lap 17 then. First of the front runners to come in.
So he's 20 seconds ahead of Alonso. If we're right and Alonso's pitting one less time, probably makes Alonso the race leader effectively at the moment. He should, he'll be in second. Button will take over the actual lead. Big story now. But a lot of fuel went in there, a lot of fuel going in Fisichella's car. And the big story now is how much further, that's Alonso coming through. He's P2 then. How much further can Jenson Button go before he has to stop for a little bit of a fill-up?
So Fisichella rejoins just in front of Juan Montoya, I think, crucially. Button leads this Grand Prix. Alonso is second. Fisichella is third and Montoya is fourth, with Heidfeld fifth and Michael Schumacher sixth. Ferrari.
Right, mate, this is an absolutely critical part of the race. If you want to stay in front of Fernando, you've got to go blindingly quick now.
Spelling it out there, Alan Permain, race engineer to Giancarlo Fisichella. You have got to go blindingly fast if you want to beat your teammate to win this Grand Prix. And I know from having talked to Fisichella over the last two Grand Prix how desperately he wants to beat Alonso. He was totally put in the shade by him last year, and this year he's so determined to try and get on the level terms with the guy everybody is hailing as the second coming. Renault certainly look like they're in the driving seat at the moment. Plenty more to come from Sepang. There is Jenson Button. He's led a couple of laps this Grand Prix. His last lap was his personal best, a 1:35.7. But once again, the pace not quite there to match the Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella. He comes in then a lap later. And I was mentioning before that new tyres are worth 2 seconds over these 2 laps. Alistair Gibson there, the chief mechanic of the Honda racing team, an enormously competitive individual. He's holding the lollipop. Jenson's on the throttle, drops the clutch. That was a nice stop by the Honda team, quicker than Fisichella's.
4 seconds less fuel though, would you say? Less fuel, and there goes Fisichella. So Jenson has not jumped in. Bit of a back marker in the way too, and they so nearly met in the middle there. So it was Montoya, wasn't it? Montoya through as well. Bad news for Jenson Button. Montoya flashes through the screen. And well, it's just like Bahrain last weekend. It doesn't quite seem to want to work out, but his pace was not fast enough, was it, in the early stages? Fisichella, though, has responded to Alan Permain's demand and advice. Get on with it. You've got to push, push, push. And he's been doing very fast sectors as he's left the pits.
As Ferrari get ready for a pit stop, neither of their drivers has stopped yet, so it could be either of them, and McLaren are ready as well. Montoya is coming barreling down the pit lane, and so too is the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Both of these cars are competitors today for a podium at least. It's going to be tough for them to beat Alonso, though. He seems very strong today. Montoya, this was lap 24. Schumacher knew, of course, he was going to take a 10th-place drop on the grid. Is that Villeneuve coming down the pit lane? I think it is. He's about to make a stop, making his way down to his pit garage as well. Michael Schumacher goes out, and it'll be interesting to see him attacking Montoya now in this middle phase of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, Michael Schumacher had to wait a long time there before they could release him because of Villeneuve looking quite slow actually down the pit lane. That cost Michael another 2 or 3 seconds. I don't know if it's hampered him with regard to track position, but Schumacher back out then. Alonso's lead up to 5.9 seconds. Button, now that Montoya's pitted, can Button pick his pace up? He's certainly matching the Renaults in the first and second sector of this lap. Jenson Button's now just really got to get back on it. He's 13 seconds away from Alonso and 7.5 away now from Fisichella. Jenson's got to push like crazy. Right now, he's out of contention. And here's a set of tyres then getting ready for brand new tyres. It's got to be for Alonso.
Well, it means he had about 75 kilos of fuel in the car when he went to the grid, which means he must have had about 100 in the car when he started qualifying yesterday, considering that everybody else would have been carrying about 50. No wonder he was so out of bed on the lap time. Here comes the race leader then, lap 26, 10 laps later than his teammate, into the pits.
Well, as world champions, they have the right to be at the beginning of the pit lane, which gives you a nice direct approach in. Oh, that's away quickly, isn't it? That's away very, very quickly. How far is that going to go before it needs another top-up? Have they switched him back to a two-stopper? That's almost certain, doesn't it?
Yep, he's on definitely a two-stop strategy. He'll be coming in again around about lap 40 or 41. Teammate Fisichella will be coming in around about lap 30. So, that's your top 8. Awful lot more racing still to come here, and it's still fairly open between Fisichella, Button, and Alonso, and the Ferraris can't be discounted either.
I'm a little bit confused by Alonso's stop as to why they didn't fuel him longer than that, because that's very much brought Fisichella right back into play. We'll have to see how it goes. Button's got to find some race pace because he's falling back effectively. Montoya too in the Ferrari. Massa still hasn't pitted, and nor has Barrichello, so they must have been virtually, both drivers knowing they've got an engine change, they must have been virtually full on the start line.
Giancarlo, a dangerous still. Fernando, you're 15 seconds in front, but he's pushing really hard, mate. He's quicker, he's 7 tenths quicker at the moment. Need to keep it going.
That's not what you want to hear, is it? You're leading the Grand Prix comfortably by 10 seconds, and you're being told an absolute fact that your teammate's catching you, and the strategy is such that he's going to beat you if you don't get on with it. But at least it's better to know that now than after the race finishes. So Giancarlo's now been given the hurry up while he's comfortably leading the Grand Prix. And let's look, first sector again, Fisichella's up, so he's responded now. That's showing Alonso catching Button, which he is still just doing. But Fisichella and Button have responded. Alonso then has got a lot of work to do. Fisichella can win this race, there's no doubt about it, if he can just keep pumping in relentlessly good lap times.
Well, Button is now on the same pace as the two Renaults. He is lapping in the mid to high 135s for lap after lap, so he's there on pace at this point. But as we saw a few laps ago around the pit stops, that's when he lost the time. He was tucked up behind Juan Montoya. That cost him a little bit of time, but straight after that, his pace just wasn't quite there. Now he's picked it up, though, and he is running in second place, under 10 seconds behind the race leader, and 4.5 seconds in front of Alonso.
Mate, we need to get about another 1 second on Button to come out ahead of him.
Okay, so Button is who Alonso can see. The camera foreshortens that very long pit straight. He's exactly 4 seconds adrift of him. They've calculated, obviously, how much fuel Jenson needs to get to the end of the Grand Prix. They know when he last stopped. Obviously, you're going to be running on fumes if you get it right as you cross the line. And so that would suggest they think he's going to come out behind Fisichella as well, doesn't it? That suggests Renault. And, wow. I see Alonso that time, for the first time for 3 laps, Alonso was quite a bit quicker than Fisichella. That's going to be a great race right at the end, isn't it? A great race.
A little bit of a look at Fisichella riding on board with him. What happens here? A little bit of a lock-up left front, pushing hard then. It's between the two Renault drivers, but Jenson Button's still in the mix as well. A 10-second stop-and-go penalty has been awarded to Rubens Barrichello, car number 11, for speeding in the pit lane. He's only one stopping this afternoon, but well, that's an expensive mistake for Rubens. 17 cars still running, make that 16 with Ide having pulled off the racetrack from 17th place.
Yeah, just trying to wonder, I'm wondering why Alonso's not in the background just behind Jenson there. He looks like he's further behind, doesn't he? His first sector time's okay, was 4 seconds adrift. Okay, well, there was a slow lap by Alonso. A lot of traffic. Jensen's really getting caught up in other people's squabbles here, and it's costing him dearly because Fisichella just cruised through these 3 cars. They just got straight out of the way, and the Toro Rosso there not wanting to yield at all. This is really hurting Jensen a lot in terms of his overall position against Fisichella. And can Alonso make hay through this traffic?
He's lost 2 seconds in the middle sector alone, Jensen Button. He can't afford to do that. He absolutely cannot afford to do it. Into the pits comes race leader Giancarlo Fisichella. He had an amazing middle sector, the fastest of anybody so far in the Grand Prix on his in-lap. He's trying really hard to win this race, Fisichella.
Traffic's going to help him. A brand new set of tyres then for his final stint. Ooh, lost about a half a second, that's all there. And Ted is down there.
Yeah, and a good move from Honda. They've decided Jensen was losing far too much time. We heard him on the radio shouting, traffic, traffic, and they pitted him. So here he is, about 7.5 seconds the target, although hopefully they'll be quicker than that. Here we go, all clean so far. Bit late on the lollipop. Let's go where he goes out in this battle with Alonso.
Okay, and that's a Midland coming down there, isn't it? Rather than, no, it's the McLaren of Montoya that's gone through as well. So Button's back behind Montoya. Just doesn't seem to work for him, does it?
Absolutely, exactly the same scenario as in Bahrain, coming out behind Juan Montoya, who he had to overtake twice during that Grand Prix. It just doesn't seem to work out for him coming out of pit stops, as you say. And this is what's costing him, big time. It's looking very good for Giancarlo Fisichella at this point. That's Flavio Briatore, the team principal of Renault. He's seen victory in the first Grand Prix for one of his drivers, Alonso, and at the moment the odds are stacking very much in the favour of his other driver, Giancarlo Fisichella, taking victory. He's using all the revs on the engine. Look, right up to 19,000 on the red line. That's the maximum revs at the moment for these engines. So absolutely no question of Fisichella turning the engine down. And Martin, perhaps that's one of the decisive things here, because obviously Fisichella, having retired from Bahrain, was able to take a fresh engine this weekend, where Alonso's engine obviously has done a whole Grand Prix weekend and then the whole of this weekend as well. Maybe he's not been able to use quite so much of the power.
No, he does have to take it to Australia as well, so he can't thrash it to within an inch of its life. But you're right, he might just have a few more horsepower. Well, he almost certainly will have a few more horsepower and the fresher motor. But he's driving nicely too. He's just in the groove the whole way round the track. Let's see, Alonso then ended up a 10th faster on that lap. He's just 7.8 seconds ahead of Fisichella. And well, it's looking like Fisichella's race, isn't it? Very much so now. It's really all about second, third and fourth. McLaren are getting ready for Montoya because he's ready to come in the pits. It now appears very clear. That'll release Button. Button can still, you're right, he can still nick it from Alonso here, P2, because that takes Montoya off the podium, I think. And Button still, it's going to be close between Alonso and Button, as you say, but Montoya then pits at the same time as fifth place man Nick Heidfeld. Quiet man having a quiet race, but doing a great job for BMW. Michael Schumacher remains P6, lapping at the same pace as the leaders in the second, or in the Ferrari. Massa in the second Ferrari, just behind him in seventh. So they've not been setting the world alight today, but they're going to score some points at Ferrari. Alonso was 23.8 seconds ahead of Button, and he's been on this lap about 3/10. So let's say 24 seconds he's got over Jensen Button. Surely Fisichella will regain the lead, and Alonso should, if it's a good stop, a little tweak of the front wing there, he should come out in front of Jensen. Away he goes. That looked quick, didn't it?
6 seconds, bang on.
Oh, look at that. Who's that coming down the pit straight? Difficult to tell from that angle.
Very
I think it was
difficult to tell
Barrichello,
from that
wasn't
angle.
it? In
Yeah.
front. This
Easy
is
to make a
now.
monkey of yourself on that one. Out he comes, and there is Alonso back on track. Is that Jensen Button swinging through the shot? I think it is.
Yep.
So Button is down to third place. That's how close it was. Jeff Willis there, the technical director of Honda, in the middle of that threesome. And, well, it didn't quite work out. Button just didn't have the pace immediately after his pit stop to make the difference here today. 13 laps to go here in Sepang. 11 laps to go here in Sepang, and this is shaping up to be a cracker of a finish. Michael Schumacher comes in for a splash and dash. It took a little longer than they anticipated. Will he come out in front of his teammate Felipe Massa, who has worked his way through the field from 22nd on a one-stop strategy? There is Massa on the right, Schumacher on the left. No is the answer. Massa is in front of the 7-times world champion. It's been a fantastic drive by Felipe Massa. Like Raikkonen last week in Bahrain, he's come through the field wonderfully. At the front, though, we have a heck of a scrap on. Giancarlo Fisichella looked like he'd done enough. You can see the board there. Schumacher Usato means used tyres. Chris Dyer, the race engineer, telling them to bring a set of used tyres out for Schumacher. That's Felipe Massa riding on board some sort of replay here. Probably another lockup. Yes, it is. Another in a series of lockups.
Fisichella leads Alonso by 8 seconds. Button just 6 seconds behind them. And there is the rear wing. A lot of fuss in the paddock amongst the designers as to whose rear wings are flexing, the slot gaps closing, reducing height, that's moving a lot, that rear wing, isn't it? That rear wing is moving. There'll be a lot of people analysing the very piece of footage you're now looking at.
Oh, someone's blown up big time there. There's Heidfeld from 5th place. Oh no, the BMW engine lets go of Nick Heidfeld, and a 5th place denied him with just 8 laps to go to the end of the Grand Prix, having driven a tremendous race.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Massa probably fancies his chances. He's catching Heidfeld by quite a lot, but that's not going to be a problem any longer. Heidfeld is driven very well, running in P5. That brings Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota up into the points in P8. We're on lap 53. Oh, that's a Renault getting a bit out of shape. So Fisichella's got an 8-second lead, but Fisichella there just made a small error, but no, he will take no pain for that.
Yep, they're lapping half a second a lap slower than Jenson Button in 3rd place. He's going to finish just 5 seconds behind Alonso and 13 seconds behind the race leader at this stage. There is Ralf Schumacher, and that is for position. That's the sole remaining BMW of Jacques Villeneuve, who's driven very well this weekend, up into 7th place. We've seen his teammate Heidfeld blow up just a few laps ago, and Ralf Schumacher is catching Villeneuve at about 1.2 seconds a lap, so that will be a showdown finish here. They've got some traffic in front of them as well.
Villeneuve looks set for a couple of World Championship points, but he's 80 seconds away from the leader, and these 2 Ferraris are 45 seconds adrift, and I think they'll be surprised and disappointed about that.
Yep, Renault is certainly the benchmark team at the moment. Montoya in the McLaren is 40 seconds behind race leader Fisichella, so it certainly is going to be an open championship. This is a track that clearly has suited the Renaults. They've been very strong here despite their problems in qualifying. Honda, Jenson Button, they're going to finish 11 seconds behind the race leader. That's a better performance, and you can see that's how close Jenson Button is to actually winning a race this year. But here is the man who's going to come through to claim his 3rd Grand Prix victory in 161 starts, the nearly man really of Formula One, often the forgotten man in the Renault team. He won last year's first Grand Prix and then had bad luck from there on. This year he had bad luck in the first Grand Prix, and he hopes it's a reverse, that good luck will follow for the rest of the season. He's had tremendous luck here. He's driven brilliantly. He is the winner of the Malaysian Grand Prix, Giancarlo Fisichella. Fantastic performance by the 33-year-old from Rome. The world champion finishes in 2nd place. Look how close Jenson Button is, just 9 seconds behind at the end. He picks up a podium. Alonso picks up his 25th Formula One career podium in just 70 starts, so underlining what a massive player he is in this sport. Waiting for Montoya to come through. There he is, and the 2 Ferraris behind. Montoya will finish 4th. Massa will finish in 5th place, ahead of teammate Michael Schumacher.
I think that's significant for Michael. Last week he was outgunned by Alonso, this week by his teammate. But we know he's still got a blistering speed, but that's not a great start to his season. Great drive from Fisichella, didn't put a foot wrong. Okay, Alonso was disadvantaged, but you have to say, at all points of the Grand Prix, Fisichella looked like he could answer anything Alonso might throw at him. I think if it was gauntlet down, absolutely a fight to the finish, Alonso would have been an awful lot closer than that, and probably pushing Fisichella harder than he would want to be pushed.
Renault supreme, a fantastic 1-2 finish here. Australia is next in 2 weeks' time.
We did a fantastic race. The pace was great. The only worrying for me was before the start to go through after the first corner ahead. And then there was fantastic behavior. I was comfortable. I was talking with my engineer about Fernando's pace, and I was just control the race. That's great.
Second position was great today after yesterday's qualifying problems, but you know, I think we have to be extremely happy for the team and for me, and 18 points in 2 races is a dream come true again in this start of 2006.
That was it from the car. I know you're supposed to push every lap, but that was like on the edge every lap. So it's, in a way, you know, it's good to get on the podium, but it's disappointing because we're not as quick as the Renaults, and I couldn't do anything. I finished 30 seconds in front of Juan Pablo in 4th. But that was it from us. That's the maximum. So we've got a lot of work to do, and the things that are wrong with the car we can solve, which is the great thing. Hopefully next week in testing.
It was a great result, and the car was really balanced, and I think the strategy works really quite well as well. So that motivates me a lot for the future, for the next races.
We were roughly where we were supposed to be. I think from the position I came, I should have been fighting with Montoya, and in normal circumstances it would have been possible.
Well, what a day for Renault. Their only previous Formula 1 1-2 was way back in 1982. René Arnoux and Alain Prost in the French Grand Prix. But today, Giancarlo Fisichella leading home Fernando Alonso. Jenson Button on the podium in 3rd for Honda. Juan Pablo Montoya, the only McLaren point scorer. And then Felipe Massa getting the better of his illustrious Ferrari teammate Michael Schumacher, 5th and 6th. Jacques Villeneuve for BMW Sauber and Ralf Schumacher for Toyota complete the point scorers. And this is what it does to the Drivers' Championship after 2 rounds. Daylight for Fernando Alonso over the rest at the moment. A 7-point lead for Fernando Alonso over Michael Schumacher and Jenson Button, 11 points apiece. Giancarlo Fisichella in 4th after his race victory today. And then Montoya, Raikkonen, Felipe Massa, Webber, Rosberg and Jacques Villeneuve. And the Constructors' Championship, Renault in the defence of their title, already out front. 28 points ahead of McLaren and Ferrari, together on 15 points, and Honda Racing. Honda, a strong start to their Constructors' Championship as well. But Renault, certainly, in this early part of the season, the team to catch. And Nick Fry for Honda. Deep down, Jenson should be very happy with that podium finish, but he's a bit unhappy with the problems he had with back markers today.
Yeah, I think he did his bit. He drove superbly. The team, generally a very good performance, but we'd like to do better. And he did get held up a little bit, which was probably the difference between 3rd and 2nd. But I think we have to live with that.
What about the race pace you're achieving, especially in the mid part of the race, and how far behind Renault do you think you are?
I think we need to pick up probably a couple of tenths of a second a lap, and I think we can do that. We've worked very hard through the winter. We've improved from a weak position last year to a fairly strong position now. It's remarkable how far behind all the other cars were, which is pleasing, but a little bit more hard work, and I think we can get there.
So certainly in terms of Honda and Jenson, a pretty positive start to the season.
Yeah, 4th place last time round, 3rd here. If we can do 2nd and then 1st, we'll all be very pleased.
OK, that's the ambition. Nick Fry, thanks very much indeed. Let's hope that you get the result that you want as we give you another chance at our ITV F1 competition.
This weekend we're giving you a chance to win a fantastic trip for 2 people to the Spanish Grand Prix on the 14th of May. You'll stay in a 4-star hotel, watch all the action at the track, plus you'll get a framed team shirt signed by both Williams drivers as a souvenir. It's a great prize, and if you want to win it, all you have to do is answer this simple question. Over to you, Nico.
If you'd like to win a great trip to the Spanish Grand Prix and a t-shirt signed by me and Mark, just answer this simple question. Who drove the fastest lap in the Bahrain Grand Prix? A. Michael Schumacher, B. Fernando Alonso, or C. me?
So that's who drove the fastest lap in Bahrain last weekend. Was it A. Michael Schumacher, B. Fernando Alonso, or C. Nico Rosberg? To enter this competition, courtesy of Williams sponsor Royal Bank of Scotland, just call 0901 293 2020 or text F1 plus A, B or C to 63337. Calls and texts cost £1 plus the standard network rate. Lines close at midnight this Wednesday and we'll announce the winner at the next race.
Well, good luck to you in that competition, and here's one of today's big winners. Congratulations, Alan Permain, race engineer to Giancarlo Fisichella. How emotional has the last couple of hours been?
It's been fantastic. It's been, just an excellent weekend. We had a disaster, obviously, last race in Bahrain, and he just didn't put a foot wrong or wheel wrong all weekend here.
And up on the podium, you've been saving those celebrations up for a year, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Melbourne was great, and then we had a disaster the rest of last year. It was a special moment up there. Thanks to Flavio for that.
Tell us a little bit about the competition, the sense of competition between Giancarlo and Fernando, and especially in the mid part of that race, you were urging Giancarlo on the radio.
Fernando doesn't give way to anybody. He's, everyone knows how quick he is, and I just didn't want to let up for 1 second, so I just kept on at him. He's there, Fernando's there, just keep going. I spoke to him after the race briefly. I haven't seen him much, but he just said everything was in control. He was under no pressure, he said, at all himself. The car was good, the car was consistent, tyres were working well. He was confident.
Yeah. Alan, it's been like a year now since Giancarlo won his third race again. The situation now, he's won this one now in the season. Do you think he's going to really give him a boost and he's going to go on and win more races?
Yeah, absolutely. I really believe that. The car, although we don't design a car for one driver, it's very difficult to do that. He's much more comfortable in this car. It's his second season back in the team. He's much more comfortable. He's as motivated as ever. He's going to do well this year.
And the latter part of that race, was there ever any prospect of Fernando being allowed to really challenge Giancarlo for the race victory?
We don't have any team orders. Obviously, the last part of the race, you're looking after things, you're looking after the car. You don't want a dogfight between them, but there's nothing ever said between them. So they were on equal settings, the two of them. So it could have happened, but Giancarlo was well in control.
Well, congratulations to you and to Renault. A Renault 1-2 here at Sepang, and of course in a fortnight's time you'll be joining us from Melbourne for round 3 of this Formula One World Championship, and I'm afraid it's another early start for you. We'll be live with qualifying and live with the race, both early morning starts for you, but a complete rerun later in the day. That's the Melbourne Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time. Renault are the team to catch. The good news though is there are plenty of candidates out there to catch.